Without further ado, I would like to welcome back to our series of webinars, Mr. Akis Panayi. And there he is, right on cue. Welcome, Aki.
Hello. Hi, Terry. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you too, Aki. So anything you need, I will be lurking in the background. So the show's yours.
Great. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining. My name is Akis Panayi, and for today's webinar, we're going to be looking at the skill of listening. As this presentation falls under the umbrella of the workshop, I would kindly ask for your participation and your contribution. That would be fantastic. Thank you, Mariana. Good afternoon. Now, before we start, just a few things about myself to officially introduce myself for those of you who I didn't have the chance to meet. My name is Akis Panayi. I'm a Cambridge presenter and teacher trainer. I represent Hamilton House. I'm an examiner for Cambridge qualifications pre-A1 to B2. Those of you that are doing Cambridge exams, you know that this is young learners tests, key, preliminary, and first. I'm also an IGCSE first language and second English as a second language examiner. I write articles on language and linguistics, which are published in newspapers and websites. And above all, I'm a classroom teacher. So for the next 45 minutes, that's what we will do. In this session, we will look at the following in as much detail as possible. How listening differs from the other three language skills, how listeners build comprehension, and how we, the teachers, can help them with that task, building their comprehension. How listening skills are tested in exams, and what the examiners are looking for, what listeners need to do while listening, what makes a listening task easy or difficult, and we're going to look at spelling in listening, because we sometimes get the question, how much flexibility is there in regard to spelling? Is there any flexibility in tasks in listening tasks where candidates have to write the answer instead of circling A, B, or C? Is there any flexibility? We are going to target that question towards the end of this presentation. Now, the first task that I would like us to do together as a warm-up activity is the following. Word meaning, as you can see on your screen. I am going to say a word. I'm going to speak out a word. And I would like you to write down, type in the chat box, the first meaning of the word you can think of. I will, forget what I said. I will give you a list of possible meanings of that word. But you take a few seconds before to think about the meaning of that word. Okay, it's an English word with multiple meanings, and the word is right. Now take 10 seconds to think and remember the first meaning of the word right that comes to your head. And now, can you just type in the chat box A, B, C, or D, whether is it right, as in write an email, A, B, right answer, C, as in right hand, or D, right-wing politics? What? Okay, I see you've already started typing. Say, okay, we've got A, B, A. We've got a D, right-wing politics. All right. I didn't expect that, to be honest. Okay. B, okay, as in correct. A, B, A, B. All right, so thank you very much. You can see as well that most of the answers that we got are A's or B's. So write an email or right answer. And let's take a step back and think, why do you think is that? Is it because we're all teachers, and that's these are the two meanings of this word that we're mostly used to? We tell our students, okay, now it's time to write. We're going to do some writing. Or right answer, good job. Now, hold that, and we will come back to this in a few minutes. Okay, now let's look at how is listening different from the other skills. Listening and reading are what we call the two receptive skills. They are the skills in which the students receive language, either by reading a text, or listening to the audio. They receive language, and it's the other two skills, the skills of writing and speaking, are the two productive skills, because their students produce language by writing or speaking. But the question is, what makes listening different from the other receptive skill, that of reading? Well, some of the things that I have here in my list are the following. In listening, there is no record of what you hear. Students listen, they listen to the listening text spoken by the speakers, but they can't go back and check what they have listened and what they have heard before. Unlike reading, where you can revisit something that you read and reread it and check the information. In listening, there is no record of that. Also, it's happening in real time. Pupils need to store information while analyzing the language. And we are going to talk about this a bit more in the following slides. They do two things at the same time. They store information because they have a task to do, they have a task to complete, so they have to remember the information, but at the same time, they're analyzing the language. They are thinking about the language. And they do that because it doesn't happen automatically, because they are second language learners. English is not their first language. In our first language, we don't have to go through this process. We don't analyze language. Everything happens automatically. But with second language learners, it's different. The other thing that makes listening different is the speech rate. The speech rate is not under the pupil's control. We can't control the speech rate. Unlike reading, where you can, we have some students who are slow readers. We have others who are faster readers. But in listening, the speech rate is not under our control. There are also different accents, different intonation, expressions used by different speakers. And lastly, there are no gaps in sentences. There are pauses that indicate where a sentence ends and where the other sentence begins, or where a word finishes and the other word begins. But in reading, this is much clearer because the students have the reading text in front of them and they can see clearly how the sentence begins and how it ends. Okay, having said that, let's move forward to the process of decoding, which is the most important process in listening. It's the most important part of the listening process. Why? Because listeners use different and various decoding methods to turn sounds into meanings, and it's what we said before about students analyzing the language while at the same time storing information in their head in order to complete the task. So this, what you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, it's a picture of a sound wave, which is what's coming in our ears while the other person is talking. And then we use different decoding methods to turn those sounds, those phonemes into meaning. And then we understand sentences like, there are clouds in the sky. But remember that every language has its own sounds. And English might have some sounds which are not to be found in your language. In Greek, for example, the Greek alphabet doesn't have sounds like sh and ch and sounds like this. The Greek language, the Greek alphabet is not built up for these sounds. So this is something that we should take into consideration as teachers when we teach the phonemes and pronunciation to students. So, what do pupils do while listening? What do students do? Firstly, they identify grammatical patterns and structures. They are thinking about the language, and they identify the grammar because you taught them the grammar before. They hear a second conditional sentence and immediately they decode that and they say, aha, that's the second conditional. We did that in class last week. Or this speaker just used the passive voice. I remember that. I remember the passive voice. So that's what they do. And they also identify vocabulary, words that they are familiar with and words that they know. And then they fit a word to the words surrounding it in order to make meaning. Like, for example, the word light, which is there on your screen. It could be the light of the sun or a light smoker. That depends. The meaning of the word light depends on the words surrounding it. Like what we did at the beginning of this webinar with the word right. Initially, you thought of different meanings of the word right, but then when I gave you the context and the words surrounding the word right, it was it was better for you to choose the meaning that you want. Okay. After candidates have understood the meaning of a word or a phrase by identifying the grammar and the words surrounding a specific word, they understand the word, they understand the phrase, but they do not understand the full meaning yet. In order to do that, they have to think of the wider context, and they have to use their wider and world knowledge in order to understand the wider context in which a word or a phrase is used. For example, let's go back to the example of there are clouds in the sky that we saw before. So you hear this this phrase, there are clouds in the sky. It could literally mean that the sky is cloudy, or, and I'm going to the next slide, it could be an omen that something bad will happen. Like, for example, the speaker in an audio might say, uh-oh, my wife is coming back and I haven't done the washing up. There are clouds in the sky. Look like something bad will happen, or I will be in trouble soon. So pupils have to use their wider knowledge to work out the full meaning. Let's not forget that second language learners, that's what our students are. They are second language learners. They are learning English as a second language. So second language learners, they have limited vocabulary. They know the words, they have they might have good solid vocabulary, but it's still limited, which means that they don't recognize words automatically. They have to think of the meaning of the word. Maybe sometimes they have to do the translation, or they do the translation automatically in their head while listening. And they also have limited grammar. They have limited knowledge of grammar, which means that they don't recognize grammatical patterns automatically. They listen to the speaker and they are thinking about the grammar. They're thinking about the sentence structure. And that has to do with the process of decoding. And all challenges identified in listening tasks have their root in the process of decoding. That process where you're thinking about the language while storing information to complete your task. Which brings us to the next question, which is, what makes a listening item easy or difficult? One thing that I have on my list is the complexity of the grammar and vocabulary. The more complicated grammar the speakers use and the more complicated vocabulary, then the more difficult it is for the candidate to complete the task successfully. The other thing is content knowledge. I've got an example on the right-hand side of your screen that says that the topic of this listening audio is bankside recruitment agency. Now, you wouldn't give a young learner this kind of task because they lack in content knowledge. They don't even know what bankside or recruitment is. The other thing is the nature of the information. The more abstract the information is, the more difficult the listening task becomes. And we are going to see an example of abstract information, and we're going to do a listening task together in a few minutes. The other thing that makes a listening test item easier or more difficult is the speech rate, how fast the speaker is speaking, and of course the accent. And we should, as teachers, we should try and expose our students to as many different accents as possible, so that they become familiar with different accents. Now we've got this is the Common European Framework of Reference, and it's Cambridge's success criteria for listening for different levels, and we are not going to look at everything. We're going to look at three of them: A2 level, B2 level, and C2. And there is some information missing. I'm going to show you some options, and we can work out the gaps together. So at A2 level, candidates and students are expected to show that they can understand phrases and expressions related to areas of most immediate priority, like, for example, very basic. Okay, I hope you can see the options that I have there for us: A, B, and C. Any kind of spoken language, concrete and abstract topics, or personal information. So could I ask you to type in the chat box, what do you think goes in for A2 in the gap describing A2 level? Thank you very much. C, yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Evstratia, Helena, Fotini, Katerina, Anissa, Stavrula. Thank you very much. We've got many answers. Yes, C, personal information, exactly. So candidates are expected to show that they can understand these words and phrases and expressions that relate to very basic personal information, shopping, local geography, employment, provided that the speech is clear. Yeah. At B2 level, they need to understand, they have to show, and we should help them understand the main ideas of propositionally and linguistically complex speech on both A or B, on both what? Delivered in a standard dialect. We have some answers. Yes, B, exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you for your responses. On both concrete and abstract topics. So you see how the level of challenge increases as we go from A2 to B2. We go from personal information to concrete and abstract topics. And lastly, of course, at C2 level, which is the highest level of language competency, candidates need to show that they have no difficulty in understanding any kind of spoken language. So We go from concrete and abstract topics to any kind of spoken language. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the description of the speech. Look at A2 at the end of the descriptor that says, provided speech is clear. At B2 level, we have delivered in a standard dialect. But at C2 level, we read fast native speech. This is another sign of how the challenge and the level increases from clear speech to standard dialect to fast native. Thank you very much once again for your immediate responses. It means a lot. Thank you. Right. So now let's have a look at this listening task. I'm not going to tell you where this task is taken from. I would like you to answer the first question that you see on your screen. What level is this task best suited for? A2, B2, or C2, according to the information that we have seen before with the different descriptors. Okay. We have one B2, then we have A2, 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 B2. Okay, this task is taken from Cambridge A2 key. So it's targeted at A2 level. And that's why there are visual options to provide extra help. The task says, what's Julia going to do tonight? And there are 3 options with visuals in order to help candidate and provide extra support. The source of difficulty in this task is that all 3 options are mentioned by the speakers. In this kind of task, there are usually 2 speakers. It's usually, no, there are always 2 speakers, and it's usually a child and an adult. And they are discussing. And what students have to do, they have to answer the question, what's Julia going to do tonight? Now, how can we prepare our students for this task? I've got some examples there for us. Preparation activities, the last bullet point on your screen. We can go over some vocabulary. We can go over some possible vocabulary with them before we listen. Like what kind of words do you expect to hear in this listening task? And you go over some vocabulary like bed, bedside table, dancing, party, studying, and so on and so forth. Or maybe we could predict. What do you think Julia will do tonight? Julia is a teenager. What do you think she would prefer? And we start a nice discussion with our students. We can even personalize the topic and say, if you had to choose among these 3 options to do something tonight, what would you do? Yeah, and we get them thinking about the vocabulary. Right. So what we're going to do now, we are going to do a listening task ourselves. It's not a test. Don't worry. Nobody will see it. Nobody will check it. It's just a listening task that I would like us to do together in order to make a point. Now, I'm going to show you this question. Now, because of some technical issues, we can't play the recording while and keep the slide on the screen at the same time. We have to minimize the PowerPoint slide in order to play the recording. Therefore, let's read the question together and try to memorize the question, and then we are going to listen. So I am adding to the challenge of this task. The task says, you hear a teacher talking about an environmental project. And the question we have to answer is the following. Why is she talking to her class? A, to encourage them to remain involved. B, to inform them about changes. Or C, to remind them about a future project. So A, to encourage, B, to inform, or C, to remind. Let's do it together.
You hear a teacher talking about an environmental project.
Right, everyone. I'm sure you'll agree it was great fun enhancing our school grounds with the butterfly garden, and I hope you all got something out of it and are more aware of your natural environment now. What you've achieved is much appreciated, and the project will continue, so I'd like you to keep thinking about things we can do to maintain the garden. The idea is to keep it going for future students at the school, so all suggestions are welcome. I think you'll all agree it's been a great success, which I hope we can repeat in the future. Right, everyone. I'm sure you'll agree it was great fun enhancing our school grounds with the butterfly garden, and I hope you all got something out of it and are more aware of your natural environment now. What you've achieved is much appreciated, and the project will continue, so I'd like you to keep thinking about things we can do to maintain the garden. The idea is to keep it going for future students at the school, so all suggestions are welcome. I think you'll all agree it's been a great success, which I hope we can repeat in the future.
We have heard the audio twice, as it happens in Cambridge exams, because this is taken from a Cambridge exam. I can see that you started typing the answers. Okay, so you say A. Exactly, spot on. Thank you very much. Yes, the answer was A, to encourage them to remain involved. Was it challenging? Maybe yes, maybe no. What level is this task targeted at? This is taken from Cambridge B2 first. Thank you very much. B2, yes, exactly. B2. This is taken from B2 first, or FCE. There are text options, not pictures. First of all, because it's B2 level, and we want to challenge candidates a bit more. It's not like the A2 task that we saw before. And the other reason is the options. The wording of the options is very abstract to be represented in a picture to encourage them to remain involved in the project. How can you present that in a picture? And what's the source of difficulty? The source of difficulty in this task is paraphrasing, and we're going to look at why right now. This is the script. This is the script that the teacher in the audio was reading out loud. Right, everyone, I'm sure you'll agree it was great fun, and so on and so forth. Now, the answer, as you said, the correct answer to the question, why is she talking to the class, is A. But how do we know? She didn't say any of the words in option A. She didn't say, I encourage you to remain involved. No, she said, and the phrases are highlighted in red, I'd like you to keep thinking about and keep it going. This is what we call paraphrasing, and it is something that we should make our students aware of. This task, what we did together, it's something that I'm sure you can do with your students. Let them complete the listening task, and then before giving them the correct answer, A, B, or C, give them the script, and then they can work out the meaning. And maybe we can go over some words which are paraphrased, like these ones. And we can also point out another thing. I would like to draw your attention to option C, which says to remind them about a future project. Now, option C has the word future in it. And can you type in the chat box how many times can you see the word future in the script? How many times did the speaker, the teacher in the audio, how many times did she say the word future? Can you find it in the script and type it in the chat box? Two. Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. Two. Future students. And then the audio ends with the word future. Repeat in the future. So perhaps weaker candidates, they will hear the word future, they see the word future in the option, and they say, aha, okay, it must be this one. No. This is something we should point out to our students in order to avoid being tricked. Another technique that we should make our students aware of is that of predicting. And what do we mean by predicting? This example that I have here for us is taken from Hamilton House new title, Ultimate English. And we are looking at Unit 5. Every unit begins with a reading text. Yeah, and some comprehension questions, vocabulary, and then it's followed by either speaking or listening. This is followed by a listening task, and this is the listening task right here. Let's read the instructions together, and we will see how predicting works. It says, read the recipe below. Can you guess what kind of information is missing in questions 1 to 8? Are you looking for a noun, adjective, or verb? That's something we should be doing with our students before listening to the audio, and as a preparation activity. Let them read the task, read what comes, what's before the gap and what words come after the gap, and try to predict what kind of word are we looking for, a noun, adjective, or verb, or maybe a number. Yeah, and sometimes they can even guess the word, and we can make a list on the whiteboard with their predictions, and then we listen to the actual listening text and check our answers. So, predicting, what does it do? It helps students to engage with the task before listening. And it also helps them to pick out the relevant information when they are listening. And lastly, it helps them to check their answers. And they become more involved in the listening task. And that's what we want them to do. We want them to be involved and think about the language. So in the classroom, teachers should focus on two things, I would say: identifying how language has been paraphrased, as we saw before, and predicting the answers where possible. Now, let's finish off with spelling, as we said at the beginning of this presentation. We are going to look at how much flexibility there is in spelling in listening tasks. And the first thing we're going to look at is from Cambridge A1 Movers Young Learners Tests, which is Movers is targeted at A1 level. And the example that I have on the right-hand side of your screen is taken from Hamilton House Young Learners Textbooks, Movers. Now, one of the following, I will show you 3 or 4 spelling mistakes. Three spelling mistakes will appear on your screen, and I would like you to think and type in the chat box which spelling mistake does not get the mark. The other 2 mistakes get the mark, but there is one spelling mistake which is marked as wrong. Which one is it? Let's have a look. Okay, here are the spelling mistakes. What they did, took photos instead of photos with PH. What they saw, flowers instead of flowers. And favorite thing, cup instead of cup. Which answer do you think does not get the mark? Okay, we have C, cup, yes. We have B, flowers. C again, another C, a B. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. The answer that does not get the mark, the spelling mistake that does not get the mark, is C, cup. And the reason is because the misspelled word spells out a different word, an already existing word. Some of you said B, that the word flowers. Yes, there is the spelling of flowers. Okay, we've got phonetically speaking, it's the same. One might get technical and say, oh, there is no English word in the dictionary with 4 vowels in a row. But at this level, at A1 level, we're not looking at that. We appreciate the fact that the candidate has found the right answer, but they lack in the spelling. But at this level, what we want to do, we want to encourage candidates. We don't want to punish them. We want to encourage them. However, there is a difference between what happens in exams and what we do in the classroom. And of course, in the classroom, you wouldn't let a student get away with flowers like this. Yeah, you would point it out, and maybe you would have them spell it out again correctly. Okay, let's go. Let's have a look. This is A1 level. Let's look at an example from B1 level and how much flexibility we have there. This is taken from Cambridge B1 preliminary. It's the only task in the listening test in B1 preliminary where candidates have to write the answer. One of the following two spelling mistakes does not get the mark. Which one is it? A or B? He is very careful about which jacket he wears instead of jacket with a C. And Phil would like to be a producer with an S, not a C. Which answer does not get the mark? Okay, we have B, A, producer. Okay, so B, A, B, A, B. Okay, we've got, we are 50-50. B, A. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your answers. Now, the truth is that the answer that does not get the mark in the B1 preliminary exam is A, jacket. And the reason is because jacket at B1 level is considered what we call a high frequency word. It's a word that comes up, that has been coming up since the early stages of learning, and it's included in the candidate's word list and the student's word list. Whereas the word producer, it's a word that, of course, they know the word producer, or they should know the word producer, but it's not considered a high frequency word yet. Therefore, there is some flexibility there. Now, and as we go, as we move on to higher levels, B2, C1, flexibility becomes less, much less. Right. Okay. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you once again. Thank you very much for your responses. If you have any questions, Terry's there to help us out with the question section of this webinar.
That's correct. Thank you, Akis. Okay, so we have a question on Facebook. All right. Garifaya, she says, when it comes to non-standard accents such as Scottish, can we help them? I'm not sure if I understand the question so clearly. Or how can we help them? Probably how can we help them, because it says his can we help them. Akis, how can we help a student get used to a non-standard accent such as a Scottish accent? Not to say no offense to the Scots out there, but
our course books and Cambridge tests, they have different accents, whether that's Scottish or Australian or Irish or Indian. There are different accents, and there are tasks in the course books that guide teachers on how to approach these different accents. So I would say the first thing is to get a hold of a good course book and test book, and make students aware, tell them that there are different accents And today we are going to listen to one of those accents. So listen to the listening audio yourself before playing it to the students, so that you can see the level of difficulty and the level of challenge. And I think after that, things will be much clearer on how to approach the task in the classroom, if that makes sense.
Great. All right. Thank you, Akis. Any other questions before we call it a day? All right. Well, since there are no more questions, then Akis, again, thank you very, very much for joining us. And for all of you that are watching now, we do have another webinar this week featuring Mr. Akis Panayi. It will be on Friday, 3:30 to 4:30. And so if you haven't signed up, please do. And if you don't sign up, you can always just last minute go on our Facebook page and watch it. And Arietta, yes, you will get a certificate. You will automatically have it emailed to you once the session has ended. So you're welcome, everybody. Akis, thanks again. Everybody have a great evening, and we will see you again next time on Friday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.